In today's lesson, I will show you how to solve the quadratic equation by completing the square. So the idea of completing the square is to have a perfect square on the left-hand side of our quadratic equation so that it is easier to solve. So let's talk about a perfect square. Let's take, for example, x minus 2 square. This is a perfect square because this x minus 2 square will be x minus 2 multiplied by x minus 2. Okay, so let's assume that I have x minus 2 square equals to 16. So this is a quadratic equation because we have the exponent of 2. So to be able to solve this quadratic, all I need to do is to just take the square root of both sides. So I take the square root of both sides, x minus 2 square equals to square root of 16. Whenever you take the square root of the left-hand side, always put the plus or minus, okay? So the square root of x minus 2 square will be just x minus 2 because that will cancel out. The square root will cancel out the square. So x minus 2 will become plus or minus the square root of 16, in this case will be 4, okay? So we can move this negative 2 to the left. So our x will now be 2 plus or minus 4. So our x will be 2 plus 4 and s we can be 2 minus 4. So the solution in this case will be s equals to 6 and s equals to negative 2. So that will be the two solutions that we have in this case. So I'm using this to show you that once we turn the left hand side, okay, of our quadratic to a perfect square, it's easier to solve. How do I make the left hand side of my quadratic equation to become a perfect square? So I'm going to demonstrate it using the same example. So you want to multiply all this by each of the terms in this first factor. So you want to multiply them out. So x multiplied by x will be x squared. X multiplied by negative 2 will be negative 2x. Then, since we are done with that, we now come to negative 2. Okay, negative 2 multiplied by x, that will give us another negative 2x. Negative 2 multiplied by another negative 2 will give us positive 4. So this becomes x squared minus 4x plus 4. So we know that x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals, is a perfect square. So what happens if I ask you to solve a quadratic? So I'm giving you the very first example now. If I ask you to solve x squared minus 4x minus 2 equals to 0. Let's say I ask you to solve this quadratic. Definitely, we know that this is not a perfect square because, again, if it were to be a perfect square, we need to make it into, like, it needs to have x squared minus 4x plus 4. So to make this into a perfect square, so the first thing that I'm going to do is to move this constant term to the right. So this will become x squared minus 4x equals to 2. I now want to make the left, okay, to become a perfect square, okay? So what do? I need to add, to make it into a perfect square, I need to add the square of the half of this coefficient, okay, to the left and to the right. So I need to add negative 4 divided by 2 square, okay, to both sides in order to make that left to both sides, in order to make the left to become a perfect square. So if I want to add that to both sides, this will become x squared minus 4x, okay? As you know already, negative 4 divided by 2 will be negative 2 square. So we want to add that. So that will be negative 2 square, okay? Will be equals to 2 plus negative 2 square, okay? So now, since you know that negative 2 square, so this will just become, so if I open up this will become x squared minus 4x plus 4 because negative 2 multiplied by negative 2 is 4. And voila, look at what I have. these two are completely the same, and we know that this is going to be this, isn't it? So instead of you to open it up like that, you can just say, since this is what you are adding, so you can just say this guy will become x minus 2 square. So it's a perfect square now. So and the right will become 2 plus 4. The equation becomes x minus 2 square equals to 6. To solve the equation, I need to take the square root of both sides. So we take the square root of x minus 2 square. So it will become under x minus 2 plus or minus square root of 6. So this will, again, the answer to this will be 2 plus or minus root 6. So that means we have two solutions, which is s equals to 2 plus root 6, and s is also equals to 2 minus root 6. So that is the solution to this, to our quadratic equation. So this is the beauty of the completing the square. So now I'm going to give you another example. I'm supposed to solve this 3a squared minus 12a plus 3 equals to negative a squared minus 4. So what you want to do is to move the negative a squared to the left, and then you want to move the constant term, you want to move this to the right. So your equation will become 3a squared. So this will become plus a squared minus 12a equals to negative 4 minus 3. Okay, so you have 4a squared minus 12a equals to negative 7. So in this case, the coefficient of our a square is not just 1, it is 4. So before you solve this, you need to divide your equation through by 4, because you want to get rid of this coefficient of 4. So to do that, so so our equation will become 4a squared divided by 4 minus 12a divided by 4 equals to negative 7 divided by 4. Okay, so we divide everything by 4. So this will become a squared, because 4 goes in 4, 1. Okay, minus 4 goes in negative 12, that will becomes negative 3a equals to negative 7 over 4. So now we want to complete the square for this guy on the left. So we need to add negative 3 over 2 square to both sides. Okay, so that means we are going to be left with a square minus 3a plus negative 3 over 2 square equals to negative 7 over 4 plus, because whatever you do to the left, again, you do to the right, negative 3 over 2 square. So as we already know, this will, the left will become a minus 3 over 2 square equals to negative 7 over 4 plus, so negative 3 square will become 9, 2 square will becomes 4. Okay, negative 3 over 2 square is negative 3 over 2 multiplied by another negative 3 over 2. Okay, so what you want to do is to multiply the numerator, so that will be negative 3 multiplied by negative 3 will give you a positive 9. Okay, and then positive 2 multiplied by positive 2 will give you a positive 4. So that's how to handle a fractional square of a fraction. Since they have the same common denominator, so that will be 4. Then it will be negative 7 plus 9. So 9 minus 7 will be positive 2. Positive 2 over 4, that will become 1 over 2. Our equation reduces to a 3 over 2 square equals to 1 over 2. Okay. In order to solve this equation, we need to take the square root of both sides. The equation will become a minus 3 over 2 equals to plus or minus square root of 1 over 2. Okay, so we move this to the right. So to solve for a in this case, so our a will be 3 over 2 plus or minus square root of 1 over 2. So you can just leave it as this, or you can simplify using your calculator. It doesn't matter, so just leave it like that. So A will be 3 over 2 plus square root of 1 over 2, and A will be equals to 3 over 2 minus square root of 1 over 2. So those are your solutions. Okay. Okay, so this is the end of this lesson. So have a nice day. Thank you so much.